Where will we go? It's one of many signs within the massive homeless encampment at Columbus Park in San Jose. Starting next Monday, the city will begin clearing people out.
We keep hearing the hotels are going to be open, the hotels aren't going to be open. The tent city is going to be open, it's not going to be open.
Founder of the Unhoused Response Group, Shawn Cartwright, was at the encampment all day on Monday. She said earlier that morning, people living in their RVs found out about what's called an RV buyback program the city is offering.
So the buyback program is if you want to sell your RV, you'll get $2,000, but only on your way to the hotel. And I know people will say, well, you had notice because it's been posted for months, but nobody knew the details that there was even going to be a buyback program.
We spoke with Jerry Drawhorn, who said that buyback program doesn't work for him.
They couldn't give me what this is worth.
Mayor Matt Mahan said the abatement at Columbus Park will be over the course of 3 months.
But again, this will be slow, methodical, thoughtful. We don't use the word sweep because we're not sweeping people away. We're offering people housing, shelter, safe places to go, and we will be very methodical about that.
There aren't enough shelter beds for every unhoused person in San Jose, but the hope is more and more sites will continue to open. Home First CEO Renee Ramirez met us at the Safe Sleeping site off Taylor Street. Tents will go on the black platforms. It was expected to open in June, now first week of September.
The hope is that this happens over time as shelter opportunities come online, right? I don't think we're expecting everyone to be off of Columbus Park next week. We expect the abatement process to begin next week.
Ramirez said the former Bristol Hotel, one of the 5 hotels the city is converting into temporary housing, is expected to be open at the beginning of next week. In San Jose, Lauren Martinez, ABC 7 News.
For many people out there, living in your RV, living in your car, living in your van has seemed like a simple answer when it comes to the rising cost in America. I've seen plenty of people in my own comment section saying that they live in their car, they live in their van, and they work. They still work. They're not homeless. But what we're seeing is whether it's city politicians, local politicians, federal politicians, the president, the criminalization of the homeless is something that's becoming incredibly normal. And it's pushing a lot of people away from any kind of resources or any kind of sense of safety. And you may say, well, they're not homeless. They're choosing to live in their car. They're choosing to live in their vans, their RVs. They're houseless. This is by choice. And while I'll agree with you, there's a lot of people like that. Still, for the vast majority of people out there who are living in their cars, who are living in their vans or RVs, it isn't a choice. And though they may still be employed, I know California is pretty famous for having, RV encampments, either on the side of the highways or in parks. For many of these people, it's their last place to go. But what we're seeing through regulation, what we're seeing through new enforcement of laws that, they've been on the books for a long time, but still, people just kind of turned a blind eye because they realize that just the system is broken and people can't afford to just go get an apartment. It's not just a choice for everyone to live in their car, live in their van, live in an RV. I think that's one of the pernicious effects of the van life craze, is that a lot of these politicians who've never actually interacted with a homeless person or somebody who's struggling, somebody from the working class or somebody from the working poor. So they'll go on TikTok and see all these people who are living these amazing lives, pulling their van up to Yosemite National Park or Zion and having these amazing views. And oh, what a luxury that must be, that sense of freedom. Yeah, that's not how it is for a lot of people who live in their cars or live in their vans. A lot of it's not by choice. It's just things have gotten so expensive. The cost of housing has gotten so expensive. The jobs just aren't paying. It's what people have to do. But we've gotten to the point in America where what people have to do to survive is now being seen as a crime. If the only way to truly stay off the street is for you to live in your car, but the government says you can't live in your car, then you have to live on the street. And there's videos all over the internet right now of people, oh my God, there's videos all over the internet right now of people who are having their cars and RVs towed away by the government, by the cops. And where do they go? On the street. The cops they'll take all their stuff out of the RV, they'll push it onto the street, and they'll stand there. These people and their dogs, they'll stand there as their lives get pulled away from them. And they have nowhere to go. nowhere to go. They have nowhere to put their things. You know, the life they thought, the kind of small bit of security they still had left in their lives has just been repoed. What are you supposed to do? And that's something that's affecting, what is it? Over 600,000 homeless people in America. 600,000. I think it's like 648. And there's not enough shelters to house these people. So what's the choice? When we're hearing from the press secretary of the government, right? Caroline Leavitt, I think that's her name. When she's saying that, well, we can take them to shelters or we can take them to jail. It's their choice. But you're not giving them a choice because there's not enough shelters to actually house 648,000 people in America. Are there enough empty homes or apartments in America to house people? Yes. Are they vacant? Yes. But that's been an argument that's been around forever. You know, all these vacant properties, how they're not actually just being given to the homeless, because that's being seen as unfair to normal people who have to work for their homes. You know, you're just going to give this kind of asset to a homeless person? I say, why not? If it's just sitting there. Because if the other alternative that you have, the only alternative that you're giving these people is to put them on the street, then what else are they going to do? What can they do? You know, people are working, they're trying. You know, so many people live in their cars. So many people live in their vans. Now live in tents and still have full-time jobs, but still can't afford to go get an apartment, let alone buy a house. What are they supposed to do? Fact is, you're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to go to jail. And that's the point. You know, let's keep putting people in jail because that's free labor. I think that's just the only way that we can see it now. Is that we're trying to find a free labor force in this country to fill up all the corporate prisons. I mean, it's just modern day slavery. It's all that it is. I used to not think like that. Yeah, I'm not like a natural lefty, but I'm embracing it now. And I think that it's a consequence of the actions around me, right? Because I'm not somebody who just looks at propaganda and says, well, my team made that. No, I've never been like that. That's why I've kind of always moved between kind of always in the center, but right and left. And I think most people do. Most people, they don't strictly adhere to the principles and propaganda of, you know, the sides that they're attached to, because we're individuals and we have our own thoughts. We have our own principles. But I can honestly say that right now, in this time, it seems pretty obvious that, you know, we just can't be doing this. We can't just be rounding up the homeless people, rounding up the vagrants, throwing them in the can because we don't want to see them anymore. These are people with lives, you know, with families. The families might have turned them down. They might be in a hard place in their life. But is the answer to throw them in jail and institutionalize them? Give them a criminal record, maybe if they didn't have one? Now good luck ever having a job again. This is a dark way to handle homelessness. And it screams horror in the future because this is dehumanization, right? This is what this is. Saying these people don't have a right to exist on the streets. They don't have a right to live in their car. You know, if you fall through the cracks, it's to jail with you. You put people on a very fine line. You put poor people, which are a huge population in America now, a growing population, you put them on a razor's edge and ask them to perform or else. Not only is it not fair, not only is it immoral, but it feels like it should be illegal. And putting people in that position and still saying that we are the country of freedom, we are the party of freedom, is really the antithetical position to take when it comes to wanting freedom for people. It's all bullshit and it's all an illusion. And honestly, you got to call it like it is, because these videos of homeless people having all their stuff ripped from them, or of people using pressure washers to remove them from the streets. Listen, I understand that it's not fun to walk by. I lived in San Francisco before. I was born in California, stationed in California. I lived in Denver. And I've spent a hell of a lot of time in DC. And I'm very familiar with how uncomfortable it feels to just be living your normal life, going your day to day and seeing people in tents, right? Covering the sidewalk. But what can you do? You just throw them away, push them into jail, clear their encampment. The reason that these encampments exist is because these people need to find some sense of security and safety. And the only way that you can do that, most people don't understand this because we live very safe and privileged, comfortable lives in our truck, in our house, in nice neighborhoods. But if you've never been poor, if you've never been on the edge of homelessness, I don't think you understand how vulnerable and alone you truly feel. And that's why you have encampments. It's not just so, oh, they just want to make it easier for them to find drugs. No, that's not how it is, right? Life on the streets is very unsafe. Right? You're going to be paranoid. You're not going to trust people because you can't, because you're prey, because the government, because the system, because the people around you don't care about you. They see that you're in the worst position you could possibly be in society and still would say, I'd rather not see you. Can we put them in jail? Can we put them in jail? No, well, we can put them in homeless shelters, right? Yeah, well, those are filled up. Just put them in jail temporarily. But what are you going to do? Because once you let them out again, they're just going to have to go back to the streets because there's no shelters, there's no systems, there's no support systems that have been put in place over decades now that this has been a problem. Homeless encampments aren't anything new, and we saw it back in the Depression, the Hoovervilles. That's what this is, just modern day Hoovervilles. There has to be an answer, but it has to be something else other than just ripping people's lives away from them and throwing them in jail. There has to be a better way. But I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Let me know. Like and subscribe. Stick around for some more, I guess. But you guys have a good one.